everyone, and welcome to episode number 8 of Dope Discussions. I have another very special guest this time. Her name is Kiraz. She's a Psy Trance DJ from Sweden. And yeah, we're just gonna be talking about music and her challenges, her triumphs, and everything in between, as always. Super excited to have you. Thank you for agreeing and coming to hang out with me for the next hour plus.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's always a pleasure. Let's get to know you a little bit. Like, where you from, what you do, how you got into music production, and kind of like what's your history up until now.
So I was born in the south of Sweden, and I lived here until I was like 19, and then I had studied a bit of Japanese in university. So I actually moved to Japan for a while. Lived there for about 3 years, on and off, and then I moved to the US after that. Also went to school there for a bit, but I got an artist visa. So I was there on an artist visa for the last 3 years. So that was like a total of 5 years in the US.
That's awesome.
And I tried to keep music as my main focus, but for a couple of years I've been doing market research part-time, basically just collecting statistics for like the bigger cities in the south of Sweden, like kind of finding out what people think about the cities and what they can do better, things like that. So
that's awesome. Where did you live in Japan?
In Tokyo for the most part.
That's amazing. I've never been to Japan. I've heard it's like a world on its own.
For
completely
sure, yeah.
separate from like the Western culture and
unique. Yeah.
That's so cool. How was how old were you when you were in Japan?
So when I first went there, I was 19, and I left when I think I was like 23. So it's like early 20s.
So were you already into like the music scene and like DJing and stuff at that point?
No, well, I started listening to Psy Trance and electronic music when I was like 15.
Okay.
But it was actually when I was in Japan that I got the idea to start DJing. And
nice.
I was in this club that I really liked called Adam, and there was a female DJ that walked up on stage, and I think that was the first time I'd seen that, or it was rare anyway. So I kind of like sparked the idea in my head.
That's amazing.
And I was going back and forward between Sweden and Japan. So back in Sweden, I took a course in DJing. I went up to Stockholm for a couple of weeks to learn the basics and kind of practiced at home and stuff. And then I did an advanced course in London for just a few days. And after that, I started kind of playing out in clubs. And that was in Tokyo as well that I started playing.
So your first gig as a DJ was in Tokyo?
I think I might have played my cousin's graduation party. but it was,
I mean like a real gig, like at a club or like a bar or something.
Yeah, I mean, besides private parties, that was my first gig. Yeah,
that's so cool.
That's where I got started.
When did you get into actual production? Because obviously DJing and producing like two separate things, although some people, that are not in that industry like think it's all the same. Like DJs produce their own music.
Yeah, no, it's very, very different. I would say, like, sure, DJing, if you look at the equipment and you don't know anything about it, it can look overwhelming, but it's if you have like a sense of music and rhythm, it's not that hard to learn. But production was something totally different. And I started learning from this trance DJ who lives, he still lives here. He's from Lund as well, which is my hometown. His name is Björn Akesen. And he started teaching me Cubase around the time, like right after I had learned the basics of DJing. But it was like it was like staring at a blank paper. I didn't understand like what to do with any of it. So
Yeah,
I didn't really get into it at first. So it wasn't really until I got my artist visa in the US that I felt like, okay, I have to really focus on this and make this my profession now. So
that's
that's when I
awesome.
started getting serious with it.
So you're still using Cubase now, like as your main production DAW?
Yeah.
It's really cool that when you said you went to a club and you saw a female DJ come up and then play, it kind of like gave you that inspiration. Like, oh, okay, I guess the field is saturated with mostly male DJs, but like I can see a female DJ, so it kind of gives you that glimmer of, hey, I can do this too. Like, it's not like, oh,
Yeah.
it's only like for males or whatever. It's really powerful, and especially nowadays when it's kind of like the whole movement of like anybody can do anything, like regardless of your sex, your color of your skin, your religion, your beliefs, doesn't matter, right? Like you can
Yeah,
do anything you want, and it's nice that
for
kind of like
sure.
that moment for you kind of like happened in that
Yeah.
scene too. Like while you're at a club, you're like, oh wow, like I can
Yeah.
do this.
And I hope I can do the same thing for other women that see me play. They could get the idea to start as well.
Exactly. That's also kind of like what my goal is too with these podcasts, is to like try and have as diverse of an audience as far as my guests as I can find, because I want to like encourage anyone and everyone to do what you love, do what you're passionate about. What is your approach when you sit down to produce a track? Like, do you kind of like have an idea first, and then you try to get that idea out in like through the speakers, or you just kind of like start messing around and see where it takes you? Like, what is the process for you?
So yeah, this is a good question because if I take a little break from producing and then I mean, I'm not one of those people that like, I don't wake up with a melody in my head and start
All right.
putting it into my computer. But so usually I sit down and then the ideas come. But if I have taken a little break and I sit down, I'm like, I don't even know where to start. Like it's so hard to get started sometimes. But I did get the advice once to start with the pads to kind of get the vibe of the track going. And I wouldn't say that I do that every time, but it's been pretty good to start with, and then from that, like things kind of tend to flow. I do the kick and the bass after that, or sometimes I might find a kick and a bass that I really like, so I start with that. But yeah, just get started with something and then it'll flow, hopefully.
Yeah. Do you ever find yourself trying to limit yourself? Like, hey, I can only use like this VST, or like this sample pack, or like this instrument, and kind of
No,
like,
no,
no, you never tried that approach?
no. I don't know. Is that a good approach? I have
So
never
this is
heard of
actually
that.
something this is actually something that I also like had this problem in the past, of like just sitting down and you're like, just you don't know what to do and like how to even get started, and there's so many options, and you like go through different sounds, and then like nothing is really happening, and you just kind of like slowly get frustrated and discouraged, and you're like, I don't know, maybe I'll try again tomorrow. Like
Yeah.
every producer goes through this. And
Hmm.
recently what I've started doing is basically set like a template for myself. So like kick, bass, and then like mid, low, high, just like to very simplify the the template, and then have already like pre-selected instruments for each sound. That way when I sit down and open a new project, that is the kind of like the default template that's already open, so I don't choose sounds. It's like whatever sound is there, I like, okay, what can I do with this? And then
Okay.
it kind of like almost forces me to try and be creative, rather than going through sounds until you like find something, oh, that sounds cool, but that's like you've been doing it for 45 minutes, so it's like your brain is starting to get tired, and like the creativity
Yeah.
is not really
I
up
mean, sometimes you just
and
have
its
to
peak.
abandon it or leave it for a while.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
So like I feel like for me that's been like super helpful, and
yeah.
especially if you limit yourself to like, okay, I'm only gonna do this for like 30 minutes or like 45 minutes, and then
Mm-hmm.
whatever I get done during that time, like that's it. And if there's something interesting, if there's like an idea that's brewing, you can keep
Mm-hmm.
working on it. But if nothing is really happening, then you can just kind of like save it and then start a new
Mm-hmm.
project and then start from
Right.
scratch and then like do like a
Mm-hmm.
completely different idea. And I've done that like in the past like couple of weeks, and I think I have
Mm-hmm.
like 8 or 9 ideas that are like, okay, I can absolutely make this into like a fully fledged like finalized track. Like the bass is there, like the kicks,
Mm-hmm.
or like the beat and the bass line, and kind of like the general idea is there, and it's really cool. And
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know, something to experiment with, because it's like a very non-conventional and different approach to producing.
Yeah.
And
But I
it's
mean, whatever sparks your creativity. So.
exactly. So like just I don't know, trying different things like that. It's I'm always like
Mm-hmm.
on the lookout for like, hey, like what's your process? What's your approach? Because if it's
Mm-hmm.
something different than what I do, I'm like, okay, it's interesting. Like I want to try that and see if maybe it works for me, or maybe I'll be like, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is not my thing.
Right.
Do you only use like virtual instruments, or do you also have like hardware gear that you use to
No,
produce?
I mean, I have my MIDI keyboard and my speakers. That's it. A very,
Nice.
very simple.
That's
I can see
awesome.
that you have a lot of hardware there in the background. I
Yeah.
usually I usually say that it's like maybe it's like a boy thing. You like to get a bunch of stuff and experiment with it. I don't know. I tend to keep things pretty simple and just find what works with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like has been a borderline problem in the past, where it's just like I
Mhm.
just keep buying new toys. It's like that's all it is. It's just toys for grown-ups, you know.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just it's fun. It looks cool, and I can just like have a bunch of ideas that otherwise I couldn't do just by using a
Mhm.
computer and a MIDI keyboard.
Mm.
So like I like to use both. Like I've talked
Yeah.
about it in the past, where like using digital versus analog, or like VSTs versus like hardware instruments and all of that
Mhm.
stuff. Like there isn't like better or worse, or like the right or wrong.
No,
It's so I like to
I
mesh
mean,
both.
as long as the results is good, then it doesn't matter how you got there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So
Mhm.
and that's also encouraging to see like someone like you, that you've I consider you as like a successful like psytrance producer and DJ, right? Like you've
Thank
played
you.
in like a very respectable venues, like
Mhm.
Ministry of Sound.
Ministry of
Like
Sound. Yeah, yeah.
growing up, I remember like having compilations of like from like Ministry of
Mhm.
Sound, like volume 6 or 7 or 8.
I know. Yeah.
It's like, and then like I
I mean,
remember.
it's the same for me. Like I loved London when I was a teenager, and like I would want to like go to Camden and shop all the alternative clothes, and then go to Ministry of Sound to party, and that was like life just didn't get better than that.
Oh,
so that
absolutely.
so the fact that they asked me to come and play was like amazing. I was so happy about it.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to like ask you like to share like a
Mhm.
little bit more about that, like how you got into like playing at Ministry of Sound. Like that's like such a very well known venue across the world, in the
Mhm.
electronic music industry. Like all the stars from going back to like the 90s like played there, and
Mhm.
it's like
Yeah.
again another thing to put on your resume. It's like, hey, I played at
Mhm.
Ministry of Sound. Like that's so
Yeah.
cool. how,
Yeah.
how did you how did you get to that point, and like what happened?
It was extremely simple. Like the booker reached out to me on Instagram and said, "Hey, we need we want a female psytrance DJ for this night to open for Asterix, and like, do you want to come over to London?" And I was like, "Yeah, yes, I do."
Yes. Absolutely, where do I sign? That's
Right.
awesome. So that's
Yeah.
so
So it's
cool.
very
See, like the
simple.
power of the internet, especially nowadays.
Hmm.
Like you see someone that you like, you DM them, they reply, and then you like form this relationship,
Yeah.
or like something cool happens, collaboration, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
this is why we're talking right now, right? Like I've been
Right.
following you
Yeah.
for a while because I also
Hmm.
like Psy Trance, and
Hmm.
then we've talked for like a few minutes when you were in Chicago. I was like, oh my god, do you have a show here? And you're like, no, I'm just
Yeah.
visiting, and and like here we are doing the podcast. It's like it's so cool.
Definitely.
What would you say are your biggest kind of like blockers or challenges as a artist, producer, DJ? But also, like, do you feel like being a female plays and like an extra role or like an extra poses like an extra challenge because you're a female, right? Like in this industry.
I definitely it matters. Sometimes it's positive, like for Ministry of Sound, for example, they were specifically looking for a woman that could
Okay.
DJ because that's like it's rare. So people are sometimes a little more interested in what I'm doing because I'm a woman. But it definitely is a challenge as well because I feel like, unfortunately, there's still this this idea that women don't know how to produce music and that everyone is ghost produced, or that if they're up
Yeah,
there, it's like it's not serious. It's
like they're
for their
fake
looks or
or
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that kind of sucks. It's of course there is a lot of ghost production in electronic music in general. I would say most of the big male DJs are ghost produced. Some are open about it, some aren't.
Right.
But and of course that goes for some women too. Some of them are ghost produced, but I want to at least get away from the idea that we can't produce music, because I think that was something that I had in my head. Like, even though I didn't want it to be there, it was like in the back of my head when I was trying to learn how to produce. It was somewhere like, no other women are doing this. How are you going to be able to do this? And that was messing me up, because once I signed my first track in 2017, once I got that email from Iono, like, I kind of, at first I couldn't believe it. I was like, are they actually, they want to sign a track of mine? Like, I have to ask someone to check the email to make sure that that's what they mean. But like after that, things started really flowing, because then that thing in the back of my mind was proven wrong. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
actually could do it. And obviously, if I can do it, other women can do it. Your gender has
Absolutely.
nothing to do with producing music.
Absolutely.
So I want to definitely encourage other women to do that, and hopefully, like the nasty comments about female DJs and producers will start to decrease.
Yeah, I mean, like haters gonna hate no matter what,
Yeah,
and then
I guess.
that's
Yeah,
I feel like as sad as it is, but that is always gonna be there. There's always gonna be people who prefer to
yeah,
spread negativity or just put like a nasty, mean comment rather than just like not say anything. If you didn't like it, like just move on. Like you don't have
exactly. Yeah.
to be mean to the person. Like it doesn't help
Mhm.
anyone. Just makes
No,
them
I mean,
feel
obviously,
worse. Like
it
what's
probably
the
has
point?
something to do with them, right? Because
Exactly.
why do you feel the need to put down a person on the internet? It's obviously because you're
Something
threatened
within.
somehow.
Right.
Yeah,
Either
you
feel
don't
like
like that.
jealous or
Yeah,
yeah, just for
maybe
some,
you don't
like I
like
said.
that a woman is like more successful than you in the industry or something, or
Hmm.
whatever it is. But
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's like super unfortunate that's kind of like the reality, but on the
mhm,
bright side and the silver lining is like more and more people just started to realize, hey, you know what? Like the way things were, they were wrong. So now it's
mhm,
up to us to make the moves and the changes that are in the right direction. And I think
mhm.
like overall, it's like a positive change. That's like where we're headed, and in that regard, like
Hopefully, yeah,
like more
I think so.
diversity, more inclusion, and like you
Mhm,
said, like your gender or color of your skin or any like physical attributes have absolutely nothing to do with your abilities to be creative. Like
no, of
absolutely
course,
nothing.
yeah. Mhm,
And like yeah, please, like encourage anyone, like if you ever self-doubt, and we all do all the time, like that's just part of life, like
yeah,
just get over that and do what you want to do, because you can't
mhm,
do it and you won't know until you try. if you tried and it like doesn't work, at least you can be like okay with that because you tried. But if you never try and then you just sit there and be like, oh no, I can't do it, just because I don't look a certain way, like no, that's BS. And that's just the society put that thought in you, and it just like you're blocking yourself from achieving greatness.
And
So
even if you try and fail, like for me, that was the case. Like I was so close to giving up so many times on production, but I just somehow I couldn't let it go. I felt like that's what I wanted to do. So it did end up working out, even though it was a huge challenge for me. So yeah, I would say like find your own way to get there. Like I needed people around me who were supportive. Like, it didn't help with these, you're asking for feedback on a track and they're like, it's trash, it's garbage, this is like, just give up on it. Like that wasn't really helping me, but
no,
maybe
not
it
at
helps
all.
other people. So like I had to kind of find the supportive people that wanted to help me out and give me good feed, or both positive and constructive feedback. And yeah, just find what works for you, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. Feedback is important, but it's also important to like know like who to ask feedback from,
For
because
sure. That's so important.
you could get like the wrong feedback because the person who gives you the feedback either doesn't know how to deliver the feedback, because that is
Right.
really important, or they just not are like they're not knowledgeable enough to like actually
Yeah.
give you feedback that would be helpful. Like saying someone like, oh, this is garbage, you should give up, like you should never say that. If you're like, hey, you know
No.
what, like that didn't resonate with me, like I didn't like feel it, like so maybe like try something different, or I don't know, just
Yeah.
maybe that wasn't
When
your
that
best work,
happens, I
like
just I just like turn to a different person that doesn't give feedback like that.
exactly. Oh man. So you mentioned earlier that you were also doing part-time marketing and research. Is this something you like actively doing, or is music your like full-time job career right now?
So I try to keep music as the focus. Like I want to put that first. And the reason that the market research job works well is because the schedule is very flexible. I love the company that I'm working for. They're really cool about if I say like, hey, I'm going on tour during these dates, they'll just make the schedule so that I can do that. And so as
That's
long as
amazing.
that works, I'm happy. But yeah, I want to put the music first for sure.
So do you feel like the entire COVID pandemic that's been happening in the world, did it directly affect you, or like how did it affect you
Oh my god,
from that,
everything,
being like
everything is different.
so I want to
Yeah,
hear a little more about that.
yeah. No, at first, it kind of hit Sweden or the south of Sweden in like mid March, and at first, well, that meant that I couldn't do my market research work anymore because it's face to face interviews.
Hmm.
So that was a risk, and so I figured like, okay, this is cool. I can spend a few months like just focusing on production, and I did, and that was really awesome. I had releases in June and in August and October. But yeah, so the spring and the summer were good, and then the fall hit, and actually we hadn't had many cases of COVID in the south of Sweden until then. But then it's like really hit hard, and kind of I didn't realize how much it was affecting me, but I started having anxiety and panic attacks, and I didn't even understand at first that that's what I was having because, and I realized that I have actually had this when I was a teenager as well, but not as intense. But basically, it feels physical. It feels like you can't breathe for me
Hmm.
at least, and your your heart could beat faster or whatever. But and then sometimes if it's a full blown panic attack, you might feel like you can't even stand up and you like start crying or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was really tough. Like so, like mid October to mid November, I just couldn't focus on anything besides getting better mentally, and still kind of working on that. The like dark, cold, all that like it doesn't help.
Right.
So but I'm back to producing music again. So, and hopefully it'll just get better. Now vaccinations started. So hopefully I'm not going to be offered a vaccine until probably like April at the earliest. But yeah, hopefully like in the summer, things will be somewhat back to normal. I'm hoping.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a very strange time in our
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Definitely.
I feel sorry for people who like rely on that as like their main source of income, right? If you're like a
Yeah.
full-time DJ or a full-time musician, like you're just
Mhm.
basically like got cut completely, and then like, okay, now
Yeah.
what? If you don't have any like backup plan or like a side thing that you can do while this is happening, it's
Yeah.
like so
I
challenging.
hope I hope most people like saved up a bit for in case they needed it or something. I haven't, but people don't talk about money publicly really, so it's hard
Right.
to know what people are going through. So
Exactly. Which I don't know. I feel like we should be more open about it. Like why not?
yeah,
Like I don't know.
I'm sure a lot of people are having similar struggles, so they could potentially be like support for each other. But
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're all in this together, like quite literally.
mm, yeah,
So might as well like be there for each other too. Like again,
yeah,
regardless, you can be living on the other side of the world, but we're still facing the
mm,
pretty much the exact same challenges. So we can kind of like encourage
yeah,
each other and help each other and talk to each other. I don't know. It always
yeah.
helps.
I wish that's how it was. People seem like they're almost more aggressive than ever online and stuff with this.
Yeah.
So
Well, on the positive side, even with everything happening, you said you had like 3 or 4 releases this year, which is like really exciting.
yeah. Hmm.
And the fact that you're still like able to kind of like find the mental capacity to produce and be creative
Mm.
and put stuff out, that's you got to focus on those things.
Yeah, yeah,
Otherwise it's a dark spiral down, and like
yeah.
nobody
And
wants to
the
go there.
like earlier this year, I refused. Everyone else was saying like 2020 is a shit year, and I refused to say it because like it was actually hadn't been that bad for me. But I think I kind of agree. To come like towards the end of the year, I was like, no, I'm done with this.
So do you have any other projects you're like currently working on, or kind of like what is your did you set a plan for yourself for like the next year? Like what's on the horizon for you?
um, I feel like right now I can't really think too far ahead because then I'll start worrying about things coming. So I like I just try to focus on producing music. Just and I do my radio show Entrancing Melodies and upload that to SoundCloud every month. So I'm doing that in the production and whatever comes up music wise. And yeah, things are not completely shut down or actually things aren't shut down at all in Sweden. I keep hearing about other countries that, restaurants and bars and stuff are completely closed. We've actually kept things open mostly. So I've been able to like see I see like my mom a lot and I see my dad sometimes. So, just a few close family members
Hmm.
I spend a little time with.
Yeah,
So just for now, that's kind of what I'm trying to focus on.
that's cool.
Yeah.
What do you think, or like what do you wish you knew when you were first getting into this world, this industry of DJing, producing, being a musician, like an artist? Like what do you wish you knew back then that you know now?
So one thing I wish I knew was that just because someone tells you that something is impossible doesn't mean that it actually is impossible. Because I was told that about so many things. Like I was told that I would not be able to get like DJ gigs in Ibiza and have a residency there, and I because you had to be in the DJ Mag Top 100 to do that. But I actually ended up getting a residency in Privilege and playing in Ibiza for a summer,
That's
and
amazing.
yeah, it was super cool opportunity. And I was told I couldn't. It would be impossible to play at Exchange LA, and I got a residency there and started eventually playing the main stage there. So there's just all these things that people said were impossible that I actually was able to do. So yeah, that would
Like
that would
seriously.
definitely that would like be something that I kind of wish I knew. But in the end, I didn't give up just because someone said it was impossible. So I guess that was good. But and like I said, I wish I believed in myself and knew that I actually could do it, because maybe things would have moved along a little faster then. Yeah, so I guess just believing in myself more. I wish I had that.
That's really like that's really powerful, and thanks for sharing, because I'm like 100% sure any other artist in the beginning of their career, like they're facing the like literally the exact same things, like not
Yeah.
believing in yourself, right? Like I was talking about it earlier, like self-doubt. Like everybody has self-doubt, no matter what you do, what industry you're in, and where you come from. Like we all doubt ourselves in like one way or another, and
Yeah.
to a certain degree, some people more, some people less, but we all have
Yeah.
that, like, oh, like, am I good enough? Like, can I do this? Am I gonna get that job? Like, like you feel nervous, you feel anxious. Like it's again, it's just part of this entire process of doing something you care about, right? And the fact that you uh, just like kept going even though it was hard and it was challenging, and like you weren't sure, and you said you were sometimes like super close to just like giving up, and but you
Yeah.
didn't, like you kept going, and like here you are, and it's like you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Like anybody else that's watching, like just take that as a as an encouragement, and as like a something to look up for. Like you can do this, you can do anything you want. Like
Yeah.
I cannot
When
say that
when
enough.
people Yeah, when people say the opposite, that you can't do something, just take it with a grain of salt, because you can do more things than you know and that you think.
Absolutely. And then, and to those people who like try to shut you down and tell you like, hey, it's impossible or you can't do that, like again, like try to think, why do they say that? Is it because they tried and they failed, so now they're thinking, oh, it's impossible because I couldn't do it? Like, and then they're like trying
Yeah, it's
to
it's all
prevent from other
in
people to
their
do it.
it's their mindset. They think
Exactly.
like this is impossible for me, or this is impossible in general, and that's going to stop them. But it doesn't have to stop you. You don't have to like take those words to heart. So
Exactly. Or is it like, or is it impossible because like nobody else have done it in the past, so I'm gonna be the
right,
first to do it, and then that's what I'm
yeah,
gonna be remembered for, and then other people be like, oh, if Kiraz
that's
did it or
huge.
if Andre did it, like I can do it too. And then it just like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
start this thing and people start following and then doing, and then it becomes the norm. Like something that once was considered impossible, now it's like people do it all the time. Think about like
yeah,
climbing the Everest, right? The first person who climbed the Everest, like I'm sure that 100% of the people they talked to that, hey, I'm gonna go climb the Everest, told them like, you're insane, you're gonna die, it's impossible. And
yeah.
now it's like people do it like
Someone has to
every
be
other week,
first. Yes. Yeah.
So like think about that, and like you said, it's the mindset that's all that it's about. It's like if you set your mind to something and you commit and you be consistent and you just focus and do it, and anytime something hard comes your way, just push it aside and just keep going forward, and be aware that like all the negative things that come up, it's okay, it's normal, it's part of the
Yeah.
process. You just have to keep going. Like you will get and do to all the things you want to get to and do. Like it's inevitable.
Oh, and another thing that I realized after a while, I'm not sure if this works for everyone, but I also realized that it's so much better if I'm not too hard on myself. Like if one day I sit down and nothing comes out, like there's no creativity, it's okay to just say, today's not my day, I'll try again tomorrow. Like, because shaming yourself and putting all these negative things towards yourself, that's not going to help you, or that didn't help me. Like, I was just making myself believe that I couldn't do it even more. So once I stopped being that hard on myself, things would flow a lot better.
I couldn't agree more. And that's something, some days I struggle with too. Like you said, you sit down and just like nothing is happening. And
Right.
it's almost an instinct of the negative thoughts start to creep in and go in your head. And you're like, oh, like, why am I even doing this? Like, I'm not good. Nothing ever will happen out of this. And I'm wasting my time. It's, like, how many people that's watching this be like, yeah, I've literally said the exact same thoughts to myself because
I
I
think
wasn't having
that's
a good day or something.
must be almost everyone that do that
100%.
once in a while.
And we think that it's only us. That's like, again, it's kind of like the default way of thinking, right? You're having a bad day or like something is not going your way. Your immediate thought is like why am I, like, am I broken? Like, am I not good enough? Like, am I the only one who's having these challenges or the problems? When in reality, everybody else goes through the same thing. You just don't hear about it or don't see about it. Nobody talks about it. So you assume it's only you that's having these challenges, but in reality, it's all of us. So again, talking more about it, like, openly, and like sharing like the dark side of things is super important. And it like encourages people to actually be more relaxed and more open. And oh, okay, like other people have the exact same problems that I have, so like I'm not alone. And oh, I guess it's actually normal. And oh, okay, cool, yeah, I feel so much better now just by hearing other people share their like challenges and their difficult times. And yeah, I mean, I know for me, like, that encourages me when I hear someone else say something that I resonate with. I'm like, oh my god, like, we're the same. Like, yes, we are. We're all human. Like, our brains are very similar, and the way of thinking is very similar. So
right, it's okay to be vulnerable. I think if you're far from where you want to be, it's even harder. Then the self hate is going to be even worse. But so like once you get to a place where, oh, I actually created something that I'm proud of and getting some recognition for that, then you know that I actually have this in me. I don't have to push myself so hard. It'll come back. If it was there once, it'll come again. But yeah, if you can, I guess, have that feeling without, like, before you get there, then that would be best. But I know it's difficult. It was really hard for me for a long time too.
absolutely. And like, one more thing I wanted to add too, is you have to remember that you need to practice, like, all the time, right? And especially if you're getting started or like you're in the beginning of your journey, you're gonna suck at something for a while, like, until you become good at it. That while for some people might be like a few weeks, for some people it might be a few years. Like, you don't know, because we're all different. But we're all gonna suck at something until we become good at it. And again, it's just part of it.
Different levels of sucking, and then it starts to not suck so much.
Exactly. And then it just becomes better, like, naturally. Like, again, there's absolutely no way that you're gonna like keep practicing at something and never get better at it. Like, that is impossible, right? But
That's
sucking
probably
at
true.
something for a while and then giving up, that's very possible. It happens all the time. the trick here is to not give up when it's like the hardest, and when you like feel like I don't want to do it because I suck at it, but that's exactly why you need to do it, because so you can become better at it if that's what you want to do, right? Like don't try and do something you don't want to do. Like, no, do something you want to do, and if it's hard, keep doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so one last question, and it kind of like ties into like what we've already been talking about, but do you have any like tips or advice that you want to share, either with the world or like with fellow producers, DJs, uh, females, or anyone else out there? Like, what do you want to share with them?
Oh man, yeah. I definitely I want to encourage other women to start DJing and producing if you want to. You can, and you can be really good at it. And I want to encourage women to support each other and help each other. And I guess there's you have to figure it out along the way, but like getting good feedback is a big part of it, and having supportive people around you is a part of it. And just you'll figure it out. It could take a long time, but you'll find help in different places and get better. I think that's how it works for all of us. You just have to stick with it, kind of.
I couldn't agree more with you regarding the support. One, like having support in your like immediate close like friends and family. Another thing that you said is support between artists and like between the females, and like regardless of sex or anything, like instead of have it be like a competition or like a rivalry,
Right.
like, oh,
Yeah.
who's
That's
better,
why
who's worse. Like, we need
that's why I say
to
that, because
support
I
each
feel like
other.
that's a thing between women sometimes. Like they want to compete with each, or they don't want to, but they do compete with each other,
Right.
and it doesn't have to be that way. We can help each other out. My success doesn't mean that you can't be successful. There's not just room for one person. A lot of us can be successful. So
Exactly. Like, think about all the DJs or all the producers in the world. There's millions of them, right? And they're
yeah,
all successful in their own way. Like, some are
yeah,
more, some are less, but like they're all doing what they love to do, what they're passionate about. And by um, having that support system, like if a new producer or a new DJ like reaches out to you for help, like help them, like shared with them
yeah,
the things you wish you knew when you started out, so they will have an easier path to get to where you're at. Like, it doesn't mean
yeah,
that like all of a sudden all the people who are your fan or who support you or like your music or come to your shows gonna be like, oh, we're not doing that anymore, there's a new DJ now, we're gonna go to their show and support their music, and like we're
no,
done with Kiraz. Like, no.
you can be a fan of a lot of things at the same time.
Exactly. Like, this is not a monogamous relationship with music and artists. Like, I love like 100 different artists, and
Right.
it's all the same. Like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
just be there for each other and support each other and help each other. Like, that's what it's all about. At the end,
For sure.
everybody wins. The
Yeah.
fans wins because they get like better stuff. All the DJs and all the producers win because they feel supported and they are actually being successful and encouraged and supported by the rest of the community and people who are like more successful, kind of like, like you can be their mentor and all of that stuff. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know, just come together, and that's all what it's about, especially with music. It's like music is like a universal language that unites all of us more than anything
Yeah.
else. So
And remember, like when you're asking someone for feedback, I mean, if you're asking a person that you don't know very well, it might be hard to say this, but if there's a person that you're kind of close with and you value their feedback, you can say, like, okay, this is the kind of feedback that I respond to. This is like, what I'm looking for. You're allowed to ask for what you need. Like, you don't need to just accept feedback that doesn't help you. You can influence it, I think, as well.
no, 100%, and like know what you're asking for, right? Like,
Yeah,
just sending me a track and be like, hey, like, what do you think? It's too
yeah,
broad, it's too vague.
Yeah,
just be
I
more
noticed that
specific.
sometimes people ask me for feedback, and then it turns out they're actually already done with the track. It's already mixed and mastered, and it's going to be released. And then it's like, okay, I wish I knew that, because now I've like suggested a bunch of changes, and you can't change anything. So,
Right.
so yeah, like be specific with what you're asking for too, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that will help the person who's giving you the feedback to actually give you uh,
Helpful feedback. Yeah.
helpful and like specific feedback, because even if someone says, oh, it's great, but like maybe it could have more vibe to it.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I don't know what to
Right.
do with that feedback. Like how
Yeah.
do I apply more vibe to my already like finished track? Like I don't know
Yeah.
what that is. But if you
And
ask
that's,
like,
I mean, that goes back to what you were saying about like choose the people that you get feedback from,
mhm,
like people who always say, oh, this is great, that's nice, but it doesn't help you. People who say vague things, that doesn't really help either. Find those people that give very specific constructive feedback, but still in kind of a positive way, I guess.
exactly.
And
Like
yeah.
yeah, you have to assume best intent. I mean, unless I don't know, someone's just being mean to you, which I don't know, then don't ask them for feedback anymore.
Don't ask them.
But I think the most important is for the people who are giving the feedback is for it to be actionable. It's for like, hey, like this is what I think, and like here, like a couple of bullet points of what you could do to like apply my feedback, right? Like something actionable, something they can actually do with that feedback. Also, would be super helpful for the person who's receiving that feedback. Yeah, I mean that's really good points, and that's really good feedback.
Right. That's
Awesome.
just some things I've picked up along the way, I guess.
Well, we're coming on our time here. Again, thank you so much for spending this last hour with me, Kiraz. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
This was really fun. Really, hopefully, will help a lot of people out there, or at least encourage them. And you know, uh, yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see all of you in the next episode. Peace.